Hey everyone, welcome to the first episode of Retention Zone in 2026. To start the year, I wanted to explore the future of customer experience subscriber retention with two people who have spent last decades building the rails of the direct-to-consumer economy. We start with Gilles Domartini, the CEO of Cleeng, who just released 6 trends for 2026 that sketch a future of automated, modular, AI-driven subscription businesses. And then Joachim Bergman, who just came back from 40,000 kilometers of client meetings across 3 continents. I guess I need to ask him, but here they are. Hello. Ciao, Gilles. Ciao, Joachim.
Hi, Carlo.
Hello. Hi, Carlo.
So let's check the facts and the numbers first. Was it 6 trends, not 5, not 7, correct, Gilles?
We can go with 6 trends, definitely. At least there are many things changing at the moment, but let's concentrate on these 6. I think these were important enough.
And the numbers for Joachim were, I'm not sure. Was it 40,000?
It was 40,000, but it probably depends on where you define. I think it was EMEA and the US. So in a way, you could say it's 2 continents.
Okay, va bene, little mistake. Okay, so let's start, I would say, with both of you, but with Gilles driving us through what he published at the end of last year, which is these 6 direct-to-consumer trends that he anticipated, that he saw, that he observed in terms of what will happen in the near future. So let's start with Gilles. And the first one is what you call the end of the dashboard. That's I can see where you're going, but tell me more.
Well, I think really is a big change that we are currently seeing is how do we access data and how do we access information in general. We used to have to dig into the information, even the way we search on Google. You would search on a given parameter on Google, you would get a set of links, and then you would try, almost one and another to go through the various answers that Google was giving you. And the same goes a little bit with important information and typically inside a dashboard. So you would get various graphs and data points that you would have to go through and figure out what was the relevant insights that are of interest to you at the moment you make that search, right? So it's not about a month ago or in a month from now, it's about today, what you are searching for. And certainly what we see is that from a consumer standpoint, when you search on Google, now you get these automated summaries that Gemini is currently doing, and it would wrap up basically a set of information into, if you look about that topic, if you want to know how to learn how to code, for example, it would tell you, okay, it's the best way to learn how to code based on many different research. This is it, and you have to follow this path, and it can even build for you the path. If you think about B2B dashboard and what we've been doing with the AI system that we've launched in Q4, it's very similar approach. You are thinking, how do I solve my retention issues? How do I increase basically the lifetime value of my consumers? And previously you would have to look almost dashboard by dashboard. Okay, I go to payment, I go to time of usage, I go to satisfaction, and you try to figure out, a set of correlations that may affect, of course, the churn patterns that you currently see and could potentially boost your retention. Now, the big change, I think, is all of this information is being analyzed in real time by an LLM based on structured data. I think the importance of structuring the data is very key. And from the specific prompt that you've been doing, so if you are as a marketeer or as a financier or as a business person, you may get different answers. It would tell you, if you are trying to optimize your retention today, this week, based on what I currently see, and I've been analyzing in a way all the different dashboards that are available inside your system, and in our case, it's about 60 different KPIs that we are monitoring. It's hundreds of different data points that we are consolidating. Then it analyzes all of this and it says, well, actually, at the moment, you have a problem with your Roku conversion, for example. And we see that you are bleeding at a normal rate. And from this, it can analyze that this is due to the fact that people are not engaging or they are being rejected, too quickly from the way they connect. So very quickly you get these insights. You don't need to spend too much time there. And the beauty of it is that not only it would give you the insight, but it would also make the recommendations how to improve certain of these actions. So I think this is a fundamental change on how we search for a solution. In the past, we were more searching for data points of triggers, and then we were trying to figure out the solution by ourselves. Now, actually, the AI is giving you directly the solution. So that's a big, big change.
And is there an agentic component in that? I mean, last year, trend word was agentic AI.
I think
I don't want to open a discussion on that because we'll do another episode then.
in my view, the agentic is almost more working in the background. I would say as a main operator, you don't really know what the process behind it, so do we first look for, specific data information from this? We try to do correlation with benchmark data that we may have from, I would say, legacy analysis we've been doing. And then we look at specific actions that certain of our clients may have also implemented in order to figure out the best solution. So yes, in the background, there might be specific processes that are running independently. But from a user standpoint, I would say you don't really care whether it's agentic or directly through the language model.
But fair to say that in the new AI assistant that we have, there is agentic use cases that we have as part of the product.
And one thing I wanted to ask Joachim is, you talked to a lot of clients in the last, 6 weeks or 8 weeks. How do you see them reacting to this kind of change? Are they is there something they're already asking? Is there a surprise?
It depends, and I think that's the beauty of also when we go fast on AI and we standardize a lot and we use it and also use it as part of the product. We have to realize that we have certain maturity and also wants from our enterprise customers, and it can also vary between department from department within the customer, and therefore I think it really does depend. Some say that they're really, really excited about it, and some says actually we don't want to use it because we actually are not even allowed to use AI.
So the second trend you analyze, you called it the subscription Legos. My son and daughter spent Christmas building a huge Home Alone house with Legos, but I don't think you're talking about that. Or it's partially maybe.
Yeah, so I think the subscription Legos, what we are seeing at the moment, and it might be also a little bit driven by this change of behaviors and expectations that we have as consumers to be able to pick and choose very quickly what we really want. And there also AI has certainly impacted, this type of behaviors. We see a re-increasing, I would say, versatility in the type of business models that publishers are using. For the past few years, it had very much standardized around the subscription processes, and maybe indeed in sports you may have seasonal sports and specific plans adjusted to sports. But the general trend was let's standardize around subscriptions. We are seeing at the moment a re-increase in different business models. We have actually 2 large pay-per-views that are coming in the next few weeks. One in Mexico, we cannot say too much at the end of January. One here in the Netherlands, but both of them are expected to reach tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of subscribers and ticket sales. So this is very substantial. We see that the number of sports federations, they really added many different business models, like the daily pass, the subscription pass, the specific end of the season pass. So there's a lot of richness that have been added. And certainly, if you take the big leagues, an NFL and an NBA, I mean, so the way they have fragmented a little bit, let's say, the distribution between Peacock, Netflix, their own domains, is really part of this Lego structure where you have different experiences happening in different domains. So that's quite interesting, I think. And for us, it's even more so interesting because it creates some complexity, of course, for broadcasters to be able to serve all of this properly with their different clients and to analyze what's the impact on retention
Absolutely.
long term, right? So
for sure, what we said before, the dashboard or AI assisted understanding of those data are more complex. So you need even more. In the past, you would need a more complex dashboard, mostly unreadable, and now you need to structure your data so that the AI can really extract what is meaningful in this more
all of this is highly
data.
intertwined, and I think you may even mention, when we see Big Ten and what is happening at Fox, it's really interesting, how all of this is being intertwined, and everybody is trying to maximize the different channels.
That's a quick joke. Sorry, I think it's important it doesn't become a subscription IKEA where you really have to. That would become maybe too much. Sorry, stupid joke. Joachim, what's your take on that?
Yeah, so I think, again, having had the privilege to visit most of our big customers in Q4, I think one thing that really comes across now is that, pricing is really a skill that is underdeveloped in the industry, I would say, in general. And secondly, we need to have world-class tools, coming back to the Lego block on pricing. How do you price for acquisition and retention? Because I think normally you just price for acquisition. You pull your pants down, to get the subscriber in. But how can you use pricing for retaining the customer over time? And I think that to me becomes quite key for us, and also to be able to offer these type of services where this becomes a tool that can be used also for retention.
So trend number 3 is, you call it the premium human approach, and obviously, can we not be happy that premium and human are together? Because obviously, if on one end AI can automate, etc., we kind of understand that it sublimates what is really human, meaning you still need the human, the sophistication of humans and the emotional part of humans to do it. But I mean, this is not philosophy. What do you mean in this concept of direct-to-consumer subscription or services in general?
I think what we see, I'll use mostly, it's more like internal processes, but how especially the development team has been working. If you think about just a few years ago, the typical process for software development was, okay, the product team is building a business scope and trying to figure out, okay, what would be the right solution and what's the competitive landscape and this type of things. From there, we try to build wireframes. And then from these wireframes, you would give it to the tech team, analyze the wireframes, and then we try to start to build all of this. And they try to build it as quickly as they can, but usually this was a fairly long process. And once it was built, okay, we go into QA. The QA had also to build quite some scripts. They were not really thinking a lot about the QA strategy. We were mostly spending their times at building scripts so to QA properly a given solution. Now somehow the paradigm has changed a little bit. Doing competitive analysis is a matter of minutes with AI. But it means also that your competitor is also able potentially to do this competitive analysis in minutes. So how do you make a bit of additional thinking there?
And one thing I want to add, and also your clients, because with this democratization of intelligence, if you want, also obviously the client side of your whatever you're doing may take your dashboard in that case and just export everything, put it in whatever AI generalistic or something they may be specialized a bit, and come back and tell you, oh look, so everybody is a bit more intelligent, or maybe if they're smart to use it in a proper way. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, we see that there's still a gap. I mean, one thing that is still a bit shocking, for example, is RFP processes, right? RFP processes continue to be extremely, I would say, empirical models. You receive an Excel spreadsheet most of the time with hundreds of questions. You need to fill in like every of the item there. While I think the general trend for tech people is more like, okay, can I build something within a day or two, try to use it? Then I do a bit of research online to say, okay, what ChatGPT may think about these two solutions, what are the comparisons, and so on. And through this, you would get an analysis that is a lot more grounded into reality than an RFP that is often skewed by various interests. So this is absolutely changing the way our clients will evaluate solutions like ours. It's changing the way we are coding and developing, back to my earlier case. Now the developers need to think a lot more about, okay, does that really make sense? How is it being architected with the rest of the platform? Can I simplify maybe some components of the platform? Where can I simplify? How can the tool help me simplify? So you have a sense of creativity and a bigger picture around the architecture that becomes increasingly important in that new age. But if you succeed, then you become a premium human, to the earlier point.
And maybe to have a few kind of examples from the let's say the customer facing parts of Cleeng in our B2B support. We have the ability to kind of have AI analyze things coming in and kind of synthesize things coming in from the customers to the tickets some of the customers are telling us, and then also post a kind of an incident, also summarize into kind of a base root cause analysis. So that's kind of all the use cases that we're using. And furthermore, also using AI to create customer reports for their performance for over the year, not over the year, over the month. Also something which is completely AI generated. So that enables the team not to having to do these reportings manually anymore. And we didn't have the resources to do them even before that. So they can now spend the time on actually seeing how these reports perform, and should we have something different, listen to the customers, what they like about and how they should be changed and evolved.
So what you're saying basically is premium human, also because humans are not more productive, maybe per se only, they're creating more value. It's not about
they are definitely more productive.
The same thing.
They are very much more productive. I can tell you that.
But in the sense, not that they just take less time to do the same stuff, they can do more stuff and more valuable stuff. I think that's, otherwise it's pure efficiency. Sorry, I'm not a CEO, never been. I've been many CXOs, but not CEO. I've never been so in love with efficiency, but more with effectiveness, efficacy, whatever both English words coming from Latin. But I totally agree. I think I can see that even in smaller example.
Yeah. I mean, you have several things, we all talk about without being too philosophical about AI, but, there is definitely, the question of what we should spend our time as humans, right? But, over time, there's always been tools. And to me, AI is largely a huge tool set that will drastically change our efficiency, and we can then spend time on other things. And that those other things will depend on which function you work in.
Number 4. So trend number 4 is the subscriber trust war. I think trust, we are in a moment where trust is under attack, maybe from many sources. I don't know. How do you see it in this ecosystem?
I think trust in what you see actually is being challenged. We used to believe our own eyes, that's usually the saying. And now the reality, we can't believe our own eyes. I can use the example, last year I published one of his videos when we introduced at IBC AI Assistant. I did a video that was generated by AI, and I sent it to my parents and kids, and they didn't realize it wasn't me speaking. So for me, it was very shocking, because these are certainly the best people to know who we are watching. And now, when this comes to content, when you see specific action in sports, when you see specific shows, but also when you subscribe on a website, when you go on a given website and you go into the payment flows, can you trust that website? Can you trust the content that is behind it? When you create marketing materials for targeting the enterprise clients that we want to go after, how can we be trustable? Is it real? When we show a dashboard or some mock-ups, are these real, or are they just basically generated the day before by Cloud Code or something else? So this dimension of trust is really interesting in my view. It brings also the authenticity factor. And I think there's a simplification overall on how we create content. maybe a bit less polished. From what I see is that people on YouTube, they prefer to have a very authentic and maybe sometimes a bit clunky. You may do mistakes when you do your demos and so on, but because there is a mistake, it may feel more real. It may feel more human. So this dimension of trust has affected the full chain from the marketing processes, the commercial processes, and of course, how we work with our clients to secure the environments that we work in, because there's also a lot more cybersecurity challenges, and ultimately also with consumers, so that they feel very reassured that when they make a payment, their payment is secure. So that's what we offer at Cleeng for sure.
And just maybe to build upon that, I saw an article last week in Guardian where Reddit now is more used in terms of time spent in the UK than TikTok. And to me, there's definitely a general debate about how you can validate what you're seeing is really true. And to me, I think this is just one example of where perhaps Reddit could be that kind of community where you can validate what certain things that you see or think is good, or maybe you want to buy through the community, where at least if it's a trusted source, if you will. So I think we'll probably see more of this going forward, where you can sort of verify that what you're doing, buying, we are such a party, but I think we do need to do more in the video space in order to be able to provide users with the validity of what they're actually seeing is actually true.
And on one end, I see also a lot of, obviously AI has helped a lot the fraudster, the bad guys. So now defending yourself is more sophisticated. On one end, it gives an opportunity to the good people to do it properly. So, but I think they need absolutely be more transparent, more frictionless, because they have an opportunity to make a difference, but they need to make it. So it's not a free-for-all advantage, because you really need to show you're a good guy and prove it more than in the past, maybe.
Yeah, totally. And I think the role of the team is changing quite a bit. I think more and more, in my view, the management team needs to step out and to express quite clearly what we are working on and the challenges that they face. And by having really brutal transparency, which is sometimes a bit uncomfortable, but it really helps also to establish that trust, and also to potentially, work on the next stage to further strengthen that confidence with consumers and clients.
So trend number 5 is about demand generation. What do you see there?
I think it's a bit related to what we were mentioning about that trust and the evolution of, I would say, marketing channels. There's definitely an appetite for real interactions. There, Joachim is a great case with his ability to travel and meet all of our clients. I think they really appreciate that. There's the fact that our sales teams are really very close to our clients and organizing meaningful meetings, meaningful sessions where we exchange, brainstorm, collect feedback, and try to work on the recommendations that the clients are making. So that's one part. I think we also want now with automated messaging. So everything that was like email related, even LinkedIn, to be honest, I've lost a little bit personally momentum of LinkedIn because the content is so self-generated. It feels like so unreal. So I don't manage to see anything anymore. It's more like, okay, you pick and choose a little bit here and there, but it starts to be a little bit confusing. So all of this kind of dimension has evolved quite a lot. And somehow here we see a bit the return of the human, in my view, assisted, of course, by AI. So you can still do emailing campaigns or phoning campaigns and so on, but you'd rather have this run by humans that have been prepared thanks to AI use analysis, instead of trying to automate all of this and just send hundreds of messages, but the quality of all of this is very low.
I think, no, sorry, I just, it came to my mind that as you spent quite some time at Apple in the past, you would have appreciated, and it's maybe a good example of that they created a new logo physically instead of automated. The new Apple logo is built with physical layers and lighting. It's a luxury thing to do, but I think it's quite a statement that a company like Apple create very physically a video of the new logo animation. So it's something in that space, I guess.
It's back to physical and real interactions. I think Apple has always been very good at this. I remember in the early days, instead of claiming they were great at video editing or I don't know, latest phones and so on, they'd rather let the community speak, right? They would interview people. They would say, okay, how do you use this software? What type of video do you create? Show me the video. Show it concretely. And here it's a little bit the same how we do our own marketing. I think we've published now a few videos, kind of tutorials on how to launch your gym website with Lovable and Cleeng within 1 hour. It's one of our product managers that has been creating the video really step by step in front of the screen, showing it to you. This is one by one how you can do this. And I think it's a return of that kind of simple, authentic type of demos that definitely pay off. So bring reality back. That's what people want. I think we're all confused with this AI, and we need to trust what we are seeing. And the best way is, again, to see things that are real with maybe sometimes some mistakes. I'm not even afraid to speak in French while in my Franco-English because it creates my part of authenticity. In the past, I was always trying to be perfect English, But then actually, if I'm perfect English, for sure I will be an AI generated. If, however, I have a bit the broken voice and mistakes, well, then there's high likelihood that this is a real Gilles.
Just one more point on demand gen and trust. I think to me, the fact that we have happy clients and we can get referrals and so on, I think is tremendously important, and especially specifically in the enterprise space. So that's also why we put a lot of efforts in that, and also to go and see them to build the trust, but also to make sure that they are happy. And then if you are a big potential client, then that they can speak with an existing client, and that carries a lot of weight.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and trend number 6 is my favorite, egoistically, because it's invisible payment. If payment to subscription were invisible, I would have a better life because I have 10,065 subscriptions. So that would be a happy bank account. But what do you mean by the invisible payment? I don't think it's what I hope for.
I think we've seen a lot of payment engineering innovation in the past few years. I would say from mobile payments to start with. Of course, we all now use massively our phones, and to pay with the phone. And I think the Nordics, where Joachim is based, we're at the forefront of this. But progressively, we've seen that actually not only you could pay with your phone, but then you could pay with your watch, right? Your iWatch. You can pay with the ring. Now it's also happening. And we see also development things like pay with your retina. So you just face the screen, takes a picture of you, recognize it's you, recognize it's moving, and then it accepts it. So the process of payment as an end user has been dramatically simplified, which is great because while it's simplified, it's also improved in security. And back to the risk of fraud. In the past, you had to take your credit card, you had to type the numbers if it was online payment. So these were quite risky. Now most of this is saved in some form of secured wallet, Apple Wallet, Google Wallet. And then when you go to a website, boom, it just flashes you, or you put your finger, and boom, it's validated. So now the payment is very seamless, very smooth. We continue to increase, let's say, the range of offers for our clients. I think it's very important to offer that choice because depending on the type of purchase that you make, you may want to be able to use a given credit card or use a given payment method for a specific payment. So it's important that we continue to improve there, and that we continue to improve also all the security protocols that are assisted to that. But definitely payments is being absolutely simplified at the moment and becomes invisible.
And I would also add is that it also depends on where you are in the world, right? Some regions don't really have a credit card penetration, which is very high. I mean, if you go to the Middle East, maybe 5, 6, 7% in some countries where you have credit cards. So there you have different type of systems, like paying through your phone through the operator. Or you go to Brazil, the biggest payment method in Brazil is Pix. We're just about to launch Pix for recurring payments as well. It's probably the first in media and entertainment beyond Spotify. And I think Spotify is one of the big. And then we're kind of the first, within the first 10 that will do that in the world.
Yeah. So let's make it. Let's go to something that is more generic, looking back first and forward after. Is there anything that surprised you in 2025? Obviously, in this space, is there anything that surprised you that you didn't expect? If you look back at your initial, start of the year, obviously in our ecosystem.
I think 25, especially for Cleeng, has been a really interesting year. But I think also from a market standpoint and even like geopolitical standpoint, a lot has changed in the past 12 months. If it comes to, let's say, the startup business and entrepreneurship business, even more so today, I would say the term less is more becomes even more critical. As things continue to accelerate very fast, I would say speed of development, speed of competition, speed of market shift, technology shifts. It's very, very key that you concentrate your resource on few activities. And to the point of earlier, in terms of efficiency and productivity, we also see that the kind of skill sets that you require in order to achieve your goals may be quite different than they were like 3-4 years ago. So the sheer volume of developers, you would say, or marketeers becomes a bit less relevant than your capacity to maximize all the tools that are at your disposal and to fully harness basically the automation that you can get thanks to, let's say, agentic and new LLM orchestration. So this is definitely at the moment something that continues to surprise us in a way, to be extremely selective in what you work on, to be extremely selective in the type of skill set that you want to have in your organization. So to really put your best interest and your best resources on what truly matters for your clients.
Joachim, anything?
Bit surprised that we've been talking about industry consolidation within media entertainment for many, many years, and that 2025 was the year when you start to see the big moves.
I agree.
To me, I mean, it's not a surprise per se, but the fact that it took maybe so long, and then in 2025 we had quite big shifts. Brightcove and Vimeo and Harmonic and MediaKind, and I foresee that probably will continue in 2026.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but back to this consolidation of business, and I think there's a case of bending spoon with what they did with Brightcove and Vimeo, and later with AOL as well. I think it's really interesting. They take a bit of stable classic businesses, after 10 years, 15 years for Brightcove and Vimeo, and then we combine this together, they simplify it, they streamline it, and then they reinvent the model for the better, and they do achieve quite some success. And that's definitely an interesting trend, that type of consolidation. But it's also a matter of speed. Everybody wants to move quickly at the moment, so you need scale to move fast, especially if you are part a little bit of this kind of legacy services.
Looking at 2026, I want to be a bit more provocative, not just ask what is the future. But if you're a leader in 2026 and I give you 6 months, what should you fix? It could be client or vendor side.
I think one that is, in my view, increasingly important because of speed and because of innovation change, is organizational structures. So how do you best serve your clients? And back to focus, back to prioritization, the need for speed. You cannot achieve that if you don't rethink your organization, if you continue to operate with the same principles that you used to have like a few years ago. So there's a need for like constant optimization, which is a little bit disturbing, I think, for a number of people, because sometimes you speak with the team and say, yeah, but already like, I don't know, 8 to 12 months ago, we already kind of did some like changing of the organization and so on. And now we are speaking again. It's like, yeah, but in 12 months, so much has happened. The way we use technology, what was impossible 12 months ago is now becoming possible. And for sure, in 6 months, it will be mainstream. So you have to adapt to these new realities. You have to stay extremely close to your clients because your clients are facing also the same, right? So to really listen to what do they need in 6 months from now. Not commit on everything because we won't be able to do everything. Neither them, neither us. We see often, but we get a lot of demands and it's not necessarily implemented. But not because they don't want. It's just because the market has evolved. 6 months later. So it's a constant race. To adapt ourselves. And this need for adaptability and optimizing the organizational structures so to better serve the clients are very important.
Yeah, so you stole my kind of fix the organization structure for client, but then that is tremendously important. I mean, both from a kind of scaling point of view, but also value point of view, that we feel that we have to step up the game on how we serve our clients on a kind of particularly the big ones, but also for the small ones. I mean, how can you augment using AI and our product to even on a self-service basis? What I would add is that I think we all need to accept basically the fact that we will be in an uncertain world, and we will continue to be in a very uncertain world, and then to be able to coach our team and ourselves to be able to kind of push through this, because you'll need to have a resilience that forever potentially. And I think we just need to come to terms with it, because to me the rhetoric has been, we'll get better, it will be less uncertain. It will not. I don't think you can plan with that. So I think to me, kind of the mental challenge will be for all of us to be able to be very, very productive and live in a highly uncertain world and keep on performing and provide value.
Yeah, well said. Well said. So I think thank you for the 360 degrees discussion. I think it was 6 trends, but they kind of multiplied, which is good. I think there was a lot of grounded in experience, common sense, and not common sense in a good way, I would say, because very often it's easier to say visionary things, but not connected to the reality of our ecosystem, of vendors, clients, and all the challenges in this uncertain world. There's one thing that I wanted to ask both of you is, do you think, I think 2024-5, we said, retention is important. I think now it's understood. I mean, unless Joachim tells me from his 40,000 kilometers that it's not. What do you think should be the next focus? Is there anything beyond retention? Meaning, okay, we understood, I think everyone understood that they have to keep what they have before and not lose what they have as much as they can, as much as it makes sense for them. And it's not like, there is not a magic number. The lowest churn rate is always the better. There may be phases where something is more, acceptable because something has happened. But is there a next thing to focus? Maybe not. Retention is super important also in 2026.
So on our side, I'd rather just focus on retention, doing it well. There's plenty of opportunities there. There's tons of subscription services. So I'm fine just sticking to just doing well retention.
I agree. I mean, we published a mini paper here, and we say what is the average subscription services lifetime. LTV is 180 days. Best one is 460 days. So imagine the amount of revenue our customers or the industry can gain by doing a better job on retention.
Totally.
So
Okay.
if we do this well, that's already quite good. So back to there's a lot going on. Let's try to do very well one thing. It's perfect.
Okay, so thank you for doing this. It's been a pleasure to go through this quite complex material, but I have to say I like the fact that both of you not only are really thoughtful, but are also really experienced and really working on real problems, not just consultancy fluff like I'm normally doing.
Try to stay grounded for sure.
Absolutely.
So thanks for your time, Carlo, and thanks for all the great retention interviews. Always very insightful.
Thank you. Bye-bye, guys.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Thank you.
Ciao.